This episode is brought to you by Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting. Stay tuned to hear how you can get your first month of Podbean for free. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where we're not only committed to our opinions, but also each other. Aww. I'm Kevin Lau.
I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Zachary Wright. And I can't believe you No, I'm not going to say it. Drag me into this bull.
What about mothers, Zach?
I'll say it, Kevin. I'm the editor of this one. I'll bleep it. You motherfuckers. You dragged me into this.
Man, mother fudgers.
You wanted this. You wanted this, Zach.
And we're talking about the goddamn Snyder Cut.
Woo!
Woo! Snyder Cut. 4 hours of Justice League. Non-stop.
My dream come true.
4 hour mark.
Oh my god, it was non-stop for sure.
So yeah, we're talking about Snyder Cut. And by Snyder Cut, we mean Zack Snyder's Justice League, which released on HBO Max just last month. As when the episode comes out a few weeks ago, literally a week ago when we as of recording this. So we will have some spoiler-free thoughts in the beginning, but we're going to dive straight into spoilers at the end. If you haven't seen it, listen to our spoiler-free talk, and then judge it whether or not you want to see it there. And then we'll just,
listen to our spoiler-free talk.
You do, man.
Listen to our spoiler-free talk.
Just listen to our spoiler-free talk.
And then think about maybe should I watch 4 hours and then realize you don't want to watch 4 hours of it and then go into the spoiler full talk.
No, and then maybe we'll be like, oh, maybe this sounds good. Maybe we'll watch 4 hours. But, let's just start off spoiler-free. What are your thoughts on the film? And Zach, let's just go ahead and start with you.
All right. First of all, we'll put my negativity to the Snyderverse aside, obviously. So I am happy that Zack Snyder was able to complete his vision, given the tragedy he had to face and everything. That's the biggest thing from this. Mm-hmm. Thank God, someone with this artistic vision and wanted to get his vision across to the audience in the medium he was making this for. And I'm really glad that Warner Brothers was able to let that happen for him. Because we know studios are all about making a quota and making money at the end of the day. And I'm just glad they were able to give him a little bit more money so he could finish it the way he wanted it. Yeah, it's a long, tedious 4 hours. Don't say anything. Kevin, shut up. Kevin, shut up. Kevin, shut up. Kevin, shut up.
Fine, this is your spotlight. Go.
Yeah, thank you.
Zach.
Thank you. There are choices I don't agree with, obviously, but we'll get into the spoilers. But overall, the pacing is actually well done for 4 hours. Yeah, anything 4 hours is going to feel like 4 hours. Even with Endgame, we watched it a couple weeks ago, it still felt like 3 hours. That's just how I sit. I can't sit still for 3 hours. But the pacing is well done for the 4 hour mark. Halfway through is when I think I got up, went pee for the first time. I didn't take a break every 6 parts or whatever. They added more things back in that Joss Whedon had taken out, which was definitely a plus and impacts a lot of different characters, which makes it a lot better. Again, there's some other minute choices that he puts back in. I'm just kind of okay, why? But overall, 3.5, 4 out of 5. It's not terrible. I think Kevin summed up the best time when he told me about it, after he watched it the first time, was it's a giant comic book crossover tie-in event. It's really the best example of that, and about how a comic book can be translated into the medium of cinema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll dig more on that particular idea in the spoiler-filled portion.
Yeah.
But Ryan, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Snyder Cut?
Okay, so I know me and Zach had mentioned, it's not, a lot of people on social media are like, this is the greatest thing ever. I think it is a really good movie. It's not, as Zach eloquently put it to me earlier, it's not the second coming of Christ. But
no, second coming of Superman, Ryan. You gotta get the
I forgot.
Get the God.
It is the second coming of Christ. Whoa.
But I will say I very much enjoyed it. I'm already a DC fanboy. Surprisingly, I didn't feel the 4 hours. I felt it more in the beginning than I did towards the middle and the end.
I agree, Ryan. Yes.
In the beginning, I was like, well, we gotta do all the setup and everything. But as after probably the Amazon attack, because I felt like that took forever to
Oh my
get through.
god. Oh, I'm
I
getting
was just
triggered.
like, I don't care about these
Yeah.
Amazons. They aren't consequential. Just take the damn box and let's move on. Like
Hmm.
after the Amazon attack, that's why I was starting to like lose kind of my steam. Also, I was watching this at like midnight, so I started
Hmm.
at midnight, so I didn't finish till 4 a.m. But um, yeah, no, I enjoyed it very much. Surprise, like I said, 4 hours did not feel it towards the end, and I usually don't like watching, 45-minute shows. So I'm surprised I got through it
Hmm.
all.
Yeah.
I very much like what they did with some of the characters in this versus what they did in the original. But then there's also some things, certain musical choices I do not like in this movie. um, yeah, there's a really overplayed
Zach, when you
theme.
edit this, you better cue that music in.
But I hope we don't get copyright struck for it.
I think it might actually be a copyright-free thing.
Oh my god, yes.
I was just like, by the end of the movie, I was like, if I hear this song one more time, I'm gonna shoot myself. It was just getting annoying at that point. It got annoying after like the first like 5 times, and then by the end, I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. But
Hmm.
overall, I enjoyed it. I'll probably watch it again at some point. Obviously, not like now because it's 4 hours, but like I will probably watch it again
Right.
at some point because I did very much enjoy this movie, and I really wish we could get more, like a continuation of this, like sequels. I want
Hmm.
more of the Snyderverse. I don't want whatever we're about to get. Cause
I will admit, at the very end of it, when I was like saying like to the epilogue, I was like, man, I do kind of want to see his next two movies, like Justice League 2 and Justice League 3, because I've read like the spoilers, what happens for it. And I'm like, then I thought about it for a long, hard second. I'm like, no, we don't need that at all.
Nah, I
Yeah.
want it. I
No,
want it.
I'm hashtag I can I'm like on the fence, but my spoiler-free
Yeah,
review,
go ahead, Kevin.
a little bit more of the background. I mean, obviously, I think it's significantly better than when we had version of what we had
Right.
before with the Joss Whedon cut. It is still essentially, it is still basically the same movie. Same story. The main story is still the same. It's just under a different context, and obviously with more character time devoted to it. And the ending is different as well, but just not drastically. But I do think it's just better overall. I am a fan of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. The Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical edition. Um, there is, and this version of Justice League gave me the closure I was wanting back when the theatrical version was released. I wasn't one of those we talked about in the podcast before in an earlier episode,
Yeah.
whereas like I'm not like a huge like, oh, release the Snyder Cut fanboy or anything like that. I think it was a stupid movement, especially with how toxic it got
Yes.
in the community. But I fully agree with directors wanting to get getting their vision for the film, and I think it's wrong for studios to take away that vision just for the sake of profit and not really anything else. And then as I've looked up behind the scenes interviews and stuff like that, and Zack Snyder seems like just a genuinely great guy. I never see anything problematic about him outside of some of his movies.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, obviously
Sucker Punch.
some of his yeah. Well, okay, so apparently with Sucker Punch, theatrical version cut out the theme of the movie. So there is an extended cut that actually has the theme of the movie in it, which is like critiques
Okay.
the type of movie the Sucker Punch theatrical version is. I haven't seen it yet. I've only read an article about it, so I will. Zach, once I watch the movie, I will let you know my thoughts on that.
We'll come back to this episode and have Kevin put an apology at the end and be like, look, I'm sorry. I was wrong about Sucker Punch.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the article is there. So,
Kevin's like, don't
I
cancel
went
me,
by the
please.
article. Please,
Not
no,
over Sucker Punch.
not over a movie I haven't seen.
I don't even know what this movie is, so
Oh, that's actually surprising. But yeah, no, this is so. I mean, that when I watched the theatrical version of Joss Whedon's Justice League, I felt I don't want to say betrayed, like I was owed something, but it was just kind of like I was looking forward to see what the next step would be after Batman v Superman, and then
Right.
like the Joss Whedon version just kind of like craps on it, in a way that like I felt like was not very fair. Kind of like Rise of Skywalker compared to The Last Jedi.
Fair enough.
Like I understand like why people didn't like The Last Jedi. I understand why people didn't like Batman v Superman, but like you didn't have to do what you did in the sequel just to like, you know, make those fans feel unwanted.
Right.
But you know, even if you didn't like Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, because I can agree with that they are kind of unfun movies. The Justice League is a fun movie. There's a lot of action and excitement to it. There's a lot of great dramatic conflict going on. It's I do like, obviously it's 4 hours long. Like Zach said, you're gonna feel those 4 hours. Especially I felt it like in the transition of the second and third hour of the film, and then like the start of the climax. I mean, it's just action set pieces. I was kind of like a little feeling drained a little bit, but then once they started talking again, I was kind of into it. And then I absolutely love the ending.
All right, but let's get into spoilers real quick since you're on the ending part. I think here's our.
But yeah, I just want to say 4 out of 5 from me. If you want to watch it, go ahead watch it.
I didn't get my ranking, but I also give it a 4 out of 5.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, and now this is spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it, or if you don't care about, or if you do, what am I thinking about? Oh, if you have seen the movie and you don't, or if you don't care about spoilers, feel free to listen on. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled, well, bye.
All right, so it's crazy. Aquaman kills Amber Heard, right, guys?
What did you say, Zach?
I said it's crazy. Aquaman kills Amber Heard.
So man, it's so nuts.
Nah, just kidding. That's a fake spoiler. If you're not here for spoilers, get out of here.
All right, now they're out. Okay. So Zach, you want to lead this one again?
Oh yeah. So for me, the biggest thing that I liked was like reincorporating Cyborg's story back into the film, because he is the heart and soul of the film. Like he really is. His story being cut from the Whedon version is just abhorrent, and really it doesn't make any sense. Like even like adding a
I have no idea how you watch the 4 hour version and be like, yeah, we're cutting out Cyborg's version. It was like, unless you, I mean, obviously, like there was conflict behind the scenes.
Well, I totally understand why like you would get rid of like the flash part, like where he saves Iris, like that. Okay, for time, you just gotta kind of introduce Barry Allen. But there's a lot with Cyborg because he's connected to the mother boxes, and with Silas studying the mother boxes, it just doesn't make sense. Like story, theme, anything in imagination.
I would argue that this is actually Cyborg's movie. Like this is Cyborg's origin story.
No, I agree.
Mean, that's usually what the Justice League stories are nowadays. It's Cyborg's origin. Like even the New 52, literally, Cyborg was created, and then like
that's true.
Beginning of New 52.
Yeah, no. So the shining star is Cyborg for sure, without a doubt. And then honestly, like this film actually,
and Ray Fisher did such a fantastic job in the role too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ray Fisher knocked it out of the park. That poor man. Oh my goodness. But this film actually made me love like Ben Affleck as Batman and Jeremy Irons Alfred. Like I was sitting there watching him. I'm like, man, I kind of want to see a Batman movie with him. Like I kind of want to see him take on Deathstroke at the end of this. But like it won't really make sense in anything like context wise. But like just Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons' like chemistry and like their repertoire on screen was so fun.
One of us.
Yeah,
I mean, you get more of it if you watch the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, because it is what I love about the extended edition of Batman v Superman is that it does really flesh out the characters, whereas the theatrical version was just information plot.
I don't think I ever got around to watching the Ultimate Cut of Batman v Superman.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 3.5 hours long, so I don't blame you. But it does if you want, but it does. When I watched it, I was like, oh, I get what the movie was trying to do now. And then like, it really just it's a whole other movie. Okay. And I know like there's a bunch of like people were responding to it on social media. It's like everyone loved the extended version of Batman v Superman. They're like, I get it now. Like this is amazing. Yeah. It is amazing. Like such strong character work in that film. It's just unfortunately it was cut out of the theatrical version.
Right. Yeah. And for time. No, but like the Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons chemistry was great. I loved it. Ryan, what was one of your things you liked?
For this movie, I'll probably say. I mean, I did, and I also enjoyed Batfleck and Jeremy Irons Alfred. Like that was pretty good. I also enjoyed. I don't know. I feel like I enjoyed what I got with Superman. I wish there had been more.
I agree.
But I enjoyed what I got because that was like because this Superman I liked it just because he pops in. He knows he's the toughest one there. He knows he's gonna be Steppenwolf. It was less cheesy than Joss Whedon's version when he just pops in and is like, I'm a big fan of truth.
No, that line is so much better than the one they gave him in the Snyder Cut. I'll stand by that to a T.
Yeah, I will.
Just the like, not impressed. I'm like, I don't. That what? The other one where it was in the Joss Whedon cut where he's like, truth? I'm a big fan of truth and justice. I'm like, yeah, let's go. That's a let's go moment, man.
I groaned. That was not. Oh, that was not.
I'm in the middle with both of you because I think there are elements of Superman in Joss Whedon's cut that I actually like.
Yes.
I wanted from Zack Snyder's cut, and then like there's stuff I like from Zack Snyder's cut, but also like felt like it didn't quite live up to the idea of Superman as well.
I agree.
Like
yeah.
that's how I felt. Like that line where him and Cyborg after they stop the mother box and they're just laughing. Like I liked that. I liked his kind of joking back with Barry, like, oh, I can move faster than you can, kind of deal. But like, I like that from the Whedon cut. But like from the Snyder cut, I enjoyed that kind of I can beat because it's been established that this Superman is a little bit more tougher because apparently in this DC universe, murder is just allowed to all Superman.
Oh yeah,
murder's allowed.
Batman's over here shooting everyone.
God.
I was like, Batman. I was like, usually in DC universe, it's just Wonder Woman who's okay with killing. Maybe Aquaman, but usually just Wonder Woman. No, in Snyderverse, everyone is just a mass murderer. Like over here, Batman's pulling out guns out at the wazoo, blowing up parodies.
Wonder Woman vaporizes a man in front of some children.
Yeah. That was insane. Okay, yeah. But I want to say though, real quick, while we're on that topic, I love the choreography for Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Her fight choreography is amazing.
That was awesome.
Props to whoever her stunt choreographer is.
I agree, 100%. Kevin, Ryan, did you want to wrap up what you liked about this real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
I just enjoyed the battle scenes. I enjoyed the kind of teamwork more because going into that final battle, it felt more like they were a team than how it was in the other because in the other one it's just Aquaman being like, yeah, we're all gonna die, but like you're great, you're all great people because he has the lasso of truth, and I was just like, like here's the thing, after watching the original Justice League, I was okay, like I was not happy, but I was okay. Now having watched this, I'm like, okay, I'm perfect now. I'm satisfied. I just want more now.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I really love, and I feel like I'm in the minority on this one, is that I really love Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. I've seen people on social media like, oh, it's just like great value Tom Holland. I'm like, I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man too, but I feel like his character isn't very well written, and like obviously he's stuck with like directors that don't work very well with characters.
Yeah.
They're more of just visual directors. So I mean, with Ezra Miller, I felt like he was just a really well-rounded character, and Grant Gustin is cool as Flash on the CW. He's great for that as well. But once again, Ezra Miller, it just feels more well-rounded, and his performances evoked empathy from me at the right moments. Like in that climax when he got hit, even though it's like kind of like a graze, I was like, oh man, I feel for him. I hope he's gonna be okay. And then like how him being ready to like just break time in order to save the world. I was like, I felt that moment. Of course, there's going to be another critique I have about the character that we will talk after the break. But I just like seeing the Flash with Zack Snyder's visual flair is like a dream come true. Like I love the Flash comics. Like all his slow-mo scenes. Like I know people like kind of hate slow-mo. I personally think it's a great thing. That's a whole discussion for another time.
Kevin, I agree with you. I think the visual aesthetic that Zack Snyder gave to Flash in this movie is amazing. Like,
oh yeah, there's so much attention to detail with it.
Yes, too. It's really cool. There are some choices he has that I'm just kind of like, well, you could have made this a whole lot better by not doing that. But
you're right.
We'll get into that.
But like,
we'll get into
it
that.
Was just kind of like one thing. out of like the 20 that were there. So I still passes. But yeah, it's just amazing. The Flash Dome, when like we see it in real time and we see all his that when he's catching the rocks, man, dude, I love that shot. It was amazing. But that's what I'm gonna say for now. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna be a little more nitpicky about it. But don't worry, I think we do have a love for this movie that I want to explore. Starting a podcast? Try a Podbean Unlimited hosting plan. It's what we use here at Committed Critics, giving us the opportunity to have our show on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and even Spotify. You can get your first month of unlimited hosting for free on us by going to podbean.com/committedcrits, just like our Twitter, or by clicking the link in the description. Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting. And we're back to Committed Critics talking about Zack Snyder. Snack Snyder. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Ooh, Zack, keep it in. Don't edit it out.
No,
please.
I'm keeping that.
Oh yeah. You can Wonder Woman music comes in. So now we're gonna go a little bit of nitpicky. We're going to talk about the one thing we didn't like about Zack Snyder's Justice League, because, no movie's perfect.
Can I go first?
Especially not this one.
Can I go first?
Yes, Zack, you can go first. Perfect.
I'm with you there, Zack.
That goddamn ancient lamentation hymn. Every time Gal Gadot graces the screen with her presence, we just hear this Grecian hymn, and I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Like, I understood it like the first couple times, but like after that, I was like,
every time she does something cool, and even when she goes to like finally kill Steppenwolf, it still plays and ruins it all for me. Because I'm just like,
I love that they have in the subtitles it's ancient lamentation hymn.
I went back and found it. That's why I got it in quotes here.
And I'm just watching this, and I'm just like, the entrance to the bank robber scene in the original version. They start playing the original Wonder Woman theme. They got the
drums, yeah.
Whatever. And then in the new version, it just starts off with that, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it's
I was like, is she about to like go like bless their souls?
Yeah, I didn't quite get it.
But it wasn't just Wonder Woman; it was all the Amazons. It played the entire time. The entire time we were on like Themyscira, it just played constantly.
For me,
I don't have left and right, and you just hear ah.
For my
I don't think there was really a defense for that. It's just kind of like you didn't need this.
And I think there's a lot of choices, like similar to this, for example. Like every time Wonder Woman comes on screen, you don't need it. Zack Snyder, you could have taken that out. Like there's just some things like so when Barry saves Iris from the car flipping over. Awesome scene. He taps the glass, it shatters, he runs through it, all in slow motion, and that's like one of his great uses of slow motion is in this scene. And then he kind of creeps on Iris for like 5 seconds, and I'm like,
yeah. And
he grabs a hot dog because I assumed he was gonna need it later because he's hungry, but he uses it for the dogs. So that was kind of smart. But I'm like, all right, whatever. But then he starts creeping on Iris, and I'm like,
I thought it was fun. I'm wondering, like, purposely misreading the subtext of him looking at Iris, and there's hot dogs all around him.
No, because he clearly plays with her hair.
Symbolism.
No, he clearly plays with her hair, so he was creeping on her for sure.
Oh yeah, but the hot dogs.
And then he grabs the hot dogs and runs back, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So like, if you would have just got rid of the creeping on Iris part, would have been fine. Like,
oh yeah, totally
fantastic. Like that scene could have been an A+, but since he added in that little part, it's like a C+ for me. And then like seeing Darkseid get like an axe shoved into his neck by Ares, I'm like, all right, well, he can be beaten. Like, I'm not really scared of Darkseid anymore.
It was like Wonder Woman killed Ares, but Ares just
by the properties of rock paper scissors.
Yeah, that was one of the scenes. I was like, I think we needed some of it, but not all of it. That one is one that that could be trimmed down by like a lot. Yeah,
and there are just some things that like Joss Whedon did this movie dirty. Don't get me wrong, but there are a couple elements like trimming down the Themyscira like attack from Steppenwolf. I think that was a good idea because this one goes on for a long time, a very long time. And then the other thing, like Kevin, I agree. I like Ezra Miller as Barry. He's a different incantation of Barry Allen. Ryan, I understand your gripes with him, but we'll get into those in a second. I like how in the Joss Whedon version, Batman's teaching him just save one person. That idea, I liked it a lot. I wish that would have been carried over to Zack Snyder's version. However, I know that wasn't Zack Snyder's original intention, so therefore it wouldn't be in his version. But damn, if we got like an ultimate cut of their like meshing of all the good ideas from both, not a bad idea. So like,
yeah, no, I agree with that.
It's like whenever you get the line, Barry, just save one person, when Batman teaches him that in the canal or in the sewer or whatever, that would have been a great payoff when he literally saves everyone going back in time.
Yeah, I think it's not a situation where like, no, we should replacing Barry's arc, but rather just meshing the two arcs into one thing, because I think they go hand in hand together really well.
Right. Yeah, and then I don't know, for me, like it was weird seeing like good Superman in the black suit, and then when we go to the nightmare sequence, he's in his like happy suit, like blue and red.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get it. Like I understand, like that's not comic accurate, so yeah, you did it right, Zach, but like for me it just make more sense to flop it, but like whatever, that's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree with flipping it too.
That's just me getting in the weeds.
Because it was getting that weird, it was getting that build of like, oh, Superman's back and he's wearing the black suit. It was like, oh, this kind of,
I'm like, that's not really Superman though. Like that's not the real Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally fan service, because everyone was like, why doesn't he come back to life and have the black suit? I'm like, in the comics he had the black suit because it was like it absorbed solar radiation faster or something like that.
Yeah,
that was it. Like when he at the end where he pulls off his suit to go take off as Superman, I expected to see the red, blue, and yellow again. And then I was like, wait, he still has the black one? I'm like, so is this just going to be his permanent suit for some reason?
Yeah, because he even showed him walk past his suit from Man of Steel. So I was like, oh, are we going to get like a Christopher Reeve looking suit? But obviously modernized. Like that's, I mean, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like hyping it up in my head. And then it's like, oh, okay, I guess the black suit's kind of
But
cool,
overall, like my biggest nitpick, like what you guys said, like with this timing and pacing of the movie, before like when I got to like the sewer battle, like it basically plays beat for beat from the like theatrical cut. And I really zoned it out at that point. I just assumed it's the exact same. And so that was really
There's slight changes.
There were slight changes, obviously, like Barry not falling into Wonder Woman's breast. Like good idea. Let's not do that. But like that's where I started like losing interest and I really zoned out for a little bit. But like after that point to the end, that's where I was kind of like all in for like, that's where like the movie shines for me, is in that last like part 4 part 5 ish. Everything before that just like it's very slow and tedious, and that's where I kind of lose interest with all that setup. But I've talked for a lot.
Yeah, no, because like the first half of the movie is just all set up and the second half is all payoff.
Right. I've talked a lot. Ryan, Kevin, one of you go ahead next.
Ryan, you want to go first? Second. One thing you just didn't like about the movie?
One thing. Can I say two?
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, one of them is very short. It's okay. No one has a secret identity in this universe.
Nope, not at all.
They're screaming names out like it's the
Barry
MCU.
does.
No, they're screaming names out like it's the MCU. The amount of people who now know Superman is Clark Kent is just like... It's like Clark. I'm like, well, everyone knows Clark Kent is Superman.
At least
everyone's screaming. Everyone knows Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah. At least one one's a little smart about it and calls him Kal-El. And I'm like, okay, no one will know that. But like, you got Bruce and Lois just yelling Clark, and I'm like, okay, guys, come on.
It's like, really? And then he's gonna come back to work the next day, and everyone's gonna be like, Clark, hey, you came back to life. Superman came up. Oh, that's what they meant by Clark. And then it's like. And then Bruce Wayne over here just walking around saying, I'm Batman to every single person. He walks into this town, they might not understand perfect English, but you just screamed out, I'm Batman.
Listen, I don't think they really care, because that woman sniffed Aquaman's sweater for far too long, so they have other priorities to worry about.
Oh, yeah. that was another part. I was like, this is weird.
I know, I'm like, oh, come on.
I was just like, in the DC universe, secret identities were a big thing. They're no longer a big thing because now everyone knows Batman as Bruce Wayne. Clark Kent literally revealed his secret identity to the world. That's the whole thing in comics now. But like in this movie, I was just like, no, everyone knows who everyone is at this point. But I didn't like Barry as much. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Rip.
Here's the thing. I liked Barry when he wasn't talking. Any single time he made words, I was very much like a slightly just okay, here we go. Like with it was like the few lines I liked was like, you know, when they all disappear from Jim Gordon, when he's kind of when he's trying to, I can't remember, but like I was just very much annoyed with Barry a lot throughout the movie, especially because he was kind of whining any single time he took a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, there's a dude over here who's literally just in a bat costume, getting knocked into buildings and everything, thrown all over the place. And you take one little laser bolt and you're like, I gotta heal, can't move. And I'm like,
he doesn't have super strength or durability.
I mean, yeah, but like the thing is, like, I mean, one, isn't he supposed to have that little like kind of charge around him to make it so like that's, I don't know.
Either way, he healed he healed enough to go back in time. So that was a more like mind blowing thing for me.
I mean, and like that's the thing. All the stuff with the Flash is cool. Like I said, anytime Barry wasn't talking, I was impressed with the Flash. But anytime he talked, and it was, I hear Ezra Miller like kind of like, he sounded so whiny. And I was just like, I know Flash is supposed to be the kid of the family, like, but I don't know. It's just like he felt a little bit too much of a child in this compared to like the fact that like
that's fair.
Everyone else is like. I'm like, they're because they weren't talking about like, oh, we're having a kid save the world, and I immediately thought they were talking about Barry, and I was like, oh, they're talking about Cyborg, but I'm like, my immediate thought was Barry because Cyborg is acting more like an adult this entire movie than Barry is at all.
No, Cyborg was very much acting like a child. I'm not gonna lie here, but for right reasons.
I think Barry is like college or just fresh out of college, whereas Cyborg is still in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, but like I didn't get that feeling from Cyborg. I get it. He's angsty because
he's been traumatized.
Yeah, he's traumatized. Yeah,
he's traumatized and everything. So, but like he's still like I don't know. He just acted more like an adult the entire movie. Like he made like his wisecracks. He had that kind of smug teen attitude. But it was Barry who I felt like was just a kid the entire time. He's like, oh my gosh, you're the Batman, and he's like, oh shh, we're not supposed to talk about that. I'm like, what are you on right now?
I mean, fair, but also like Cyborg is pissed off his dad the entire time. I'm like, okay, get over it. He saved your life. Like, come on.
I would be too, like, dude. His entire body.
Yeah,
was destroyed.
no, I feel like the hatred of his dad was justified, and then like obviously it was that's part of the art.
It was justified, but it went on way too long. I'm like, I get it.
All the time is that his dad never showed up for him in anything until he got blown up, and then he's like,
used him as a science experiment.
Yeah, and then he's like, you turned me into a monster. Yeah, screw you, Dad.
Kevin, what did you not like about it?
I don't. So like, I can nitpick it all day long, but we kind of like covered that part.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the main thing was just kind of like the inclusion of Martian Manhunter, which is kind of like wasn't needed.
Yeah.
Because there was no payoff to it, and when his reveal kind of negates the best scene, Martha Kent's best scene,
right?
When she talks to Lois. It's just kind of like, it was such a fantastic scene, but it just kind of like negated by the fact it's like, oh, it's not actually Martha, it's actually Martian Manhunter. Whoa.
Right.
But I do have a genuine love for this movie. It is I love films that feel like it is a person's vision and not from a corporation.
Yeah.
And this film definitely feels like a person's vision.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's just I'm very like lenient when it is a person's vision, because like and obviously it is not with ill intent in mind either. It is a person that has a love for these characters and wants us to love them as much as he loves them, and this is his own personal interpretation of the characters as well. So and then like as we mentioned in the first half of the episode, where it's like it just feels like a huge comic book event. Like, with all the tie-in issues as well, this, like, that's why the movie is so long. And then, like, it feels like, we see, like, we have the main issue going over the main story, then a tie-in issue to introduce this other character and then pull them into the series. And then it's just kind of like, they're like, these other characters have their own series going on, but they're part of this all huge main event, tying all together, which is, I felt like, which is amazing. It's just like, this is like, oh yeah, this is big blockbuster comic book storytelling. How I would want it. I think more movies should be braver to be longer.
Yeah.
I think the cap, the corporate cap of movie length is atrocious idea. because independent movies can be longer as well, and foreign films as well. It is, I think we need to, I mean, I understand the reason why the cap exists, so that way that way there can be like a regular multiple showings of a movie in a theater, so that way they can get more money. But also it's like we need to, I want corporate cinema to take more risks. I want them to let directors have their vision. I want them to not be so worried about the length caps,
The paycheck at the end of
the
the day.
runtime of the films.
Good luck getting that by
Yeah,
Disney.
especially yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But especially if it's like, Zack Snyder's shooting this on the same budget as you would for like a 90-minute or a superhero movie.
Right.
Perhaps even less. I gotta look it up to be sure, but it's it shows how effective he is as a filmmaker too, where he is working with the same budget as like Wonder Woman 1984, which is a 2.5 hour movie, and made 4 hour movie out of it. It's
I agree, Kevin. I think the best way to
want more of that.
I think the best way to explain this would be it's an experience. And like
definitely.
in the same way that Endgame was an experience compared to Zack Snyder's Justice League, they're both different experiences. One is the MCU. The other is an artistic vision of the Justice League by Zack Snyder, like one author's vision, whereas one is like a conglomerate of all these different directors and of a studio's vision of these MCU characters, right?
Right, and I mentioned it to you before that like if this was if the Snyderverse was a comic book,
Right.
like Superman Red Sun or Injustice or some other world tie into that, people would love this.
I think even if if we had
people would be all over for it.
even if we had modern day like a modernized like 2010 like version like kind of like Iron Man with Superman, and then this came out after all that happened, people would have loved it then. It would have been something different from Superman.
Exactly.
I think we'll get to the point of taking
because right now how it is as the modern. So go ahead.
No, you're saying. I was just gonna say. I think we'll get to the point of where more people take risks. Like look at like Warner Brothers put out Zack Snyder's version. They took a risk and they put it out there. It's getting views. It's getting streams. Ryan, to kind of contradict what you said and to call you out, like Disney put out Endgame at 3 hours, and like that's still 3 hours and is way over usually the cap for movies. So I mean, I think we'll get there to a point where they'll start to take more risks.
Right. I mean, like, Marvel is starting to take more risk with their style as film.
Right.
I don't generally want to give them credit for inventing the wheel when we already have flying cars.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's more like Disney. It's like Disney's like 20 years behind where cinema is at, and I don't think we should give them credit for like starting to progress a little bit more.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not giving them credit for it. I'm just
more
giving them like they're the first studio to put out, not the first studio to put out a 3 hour movie, but like the first studio to like make it more modern and make it more like acceptable.
I wouldn't say that.
Right. I mean, Warner Brothers isn't afraid of longer movies too, because we got Lord of the Rings through
Right,
them.
yeah.
We got the Harry Potter movies through them.
Yeah.
So Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was just gonna say we've had longer movies before. Like honestly, I don't feel the 3 hours when I watch Endgame. It feels much shorter. Every single time I finish and I'm like, oh, it's already over. Like I never felt the length, even when I was watching it in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, Endgame is just a really fun movie. There's always stuff going on. It also has a lot of comedy too to help make the the pacing feel more brisk. This doesn't have the comedy; it's more of a drama. But like I was saying, like if like we were saying, like if we had a more modern take of superheroes of the Justice League, where there's more a better adaptation of the comics, an actual adaptation of the comics, then it'd be like, oh wow, like and then now we have this alternate version as well, which is really cool. But we don't have that essentially outside the Dark Knight, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I think that when you watch these movies, if you ever decide to rewatch these movies, go in with a mindset of these are not the characters you grew up with coming to life. This is Zack Snyder's version of the characters.
This ain't your mama's superhero.
It's just like, with Frank Miller and The Dark Knight Rises, or, Superman Red Sun, where Superman ended up in Russia instead of America and became, evil.
I'm just thinking of like the
or
root beer company where it's like not your father's root beer. I'm thinking of like that with like superhero comics.
essentially. But yeah, I I really love Snyder's vision. I'm glad that this is where it ends, because like we were talking about, we read spoilers before, but like what's supposed to happen next, and we're just like, no.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't the end. I really don't. I think they could go further, because I am not liking I'm not liking where DC's going right now. Especially after seeing the Suicide Squad trailer.
I do want to say though that this movie introduces the multiverse to the to Zack Snyder's cinematic universe. Because I think the reason why, Zach, you were mentioning like if it, like it didn't establish the multiverse, it like you think it might not have actually established the multiverse because no one was really talking about it. I think that's because it was already kind of established when Ezra Miller showed up in The Flash, in Crisis in Infinite Earths.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where the big news came in at. So that's why not everyone was kind of super like whoa about this. But I did find some articles talking about what I want to talk about. Where it's like this opens up the universe in the DC cinematic universe, where it's like you can have movies with the same actors, but they're not necessarily the same characters. We can have different interpretations, but like it's the same. Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman,
right?
Ben Affleck is Batman, so on and so forth. It just may not be like the Snyderverse version of that, but you don't have to worry too much about continuity. So that way you get this multiple different takes on these characters, and it's still like, yeah, these are all canon, like to some degree. You can there is a connective tissue where the events happen, but maybe the context is different. But Aquaman is still part of this universe. Wonder Woman 1984 is still part of this universe, so on and so forth. And it's just I really love it because it's like because the ending of Zack Snyder's Justice League is just open-ended to let more creative people do what they want to do with their movies, and I'm totally for that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the ending of like the epilogue and all that stuff could have been cut out because it doesn't really add to the ending of the Justice League like story. It just sets up part 2 and part 3 that he wanted to do. So it's just like an extension of what here's what I wanted to do for parts 2 and 3. So I mean, since we're not going to get parts 2 and 3, he could just kind of left it out. But I get it's his vision.
I'm worried that we might just not get a Justice League movie, period.
True, yeah.
I think it just might be solo movies for a while. But on that note, thank you guys for listening to Committed Critics. Does anyone have any final thoughts? Yeah, and then I'm looking at your notes too. You already talked about the Barry Allen learning to save just one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my final thought is the best way to watch the series, in my opinion, is Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I hope we get a Blu-ray release for Zack Snyder's Justice League, so I can just slide onto my shelf.
For me, at the end of this,
what about you?
I'm not in love with it. Like, I probably won't ever feel a need to rewatch it unless we're doing something for Committed Critics, or like I would never go my own way, my own volition to watch it again. I'm not in love with it. Like, it's fine. I can see the quality in it. Do I like it? Like, that's subjective. So I mean, yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Like, I don't love it. Like I said, it's not the second coming of Superman. I mean, Jesus.
And how about you, Ryan? Any final thoughts?
I probably will rewatch it at some point of my own volition. I mean, like it's not it's not perfect. I want more. I don't want too many of these more solo movies. I want more Justice League over what else we're gonna get.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But this has been Committed Critics. Thank you so much for listening to this episode about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I hope you're happy that it's not 4 hours just like that movie.
Thank God.
That would have been an interesting podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Committed Crits. That's COMMITTEDCRITS. You can follow us on YouTube, spelled the same there as it is here and everywhere else. We've got some special content coming up soon that we'll be announcing in our next episode.
Stick around for that.
Ooh. Support us on Patreon. It is only $1 or $2 a month. It can help a lot for the show. And special thanks to our sound engineer, Jordan Smearman, for being awesome. And with that, we'll head on out. Bye.
See ya.